Hey everybody, welcome to my channel. So I've been working on the Junk Journal January Challenge hosted by Meg Journals, and I have in front of me pages that have the prompts 16 through 18. So I've already released a video talking about those prompts and how I've decorated this page here. I've decorated this page in a very similar way. So I'll put a link to the video for this, and this page here also has an interactive element, which is prompt number 19. So I thought I'd do a tutorial. Well, somehow in the process of splitting this video, I've lost the tutorial. So I did make another card. I just wanted to give you a heads up if I repeat myself at any point or something doesn't quite make sense, that's what happened. So let's get on with the tutorial. I decided I wanted a hidden message on my slide out, and that's what I've decided to call my interactive element here. If you do know the correct terminology, you've seen this before, please let me know in the comments. But for now, I'm just going to call it a slide out. So anyway, I found this Let's Be Mermaids, and I thought that was perfect. And I also knew that I needed something that attached to this card and on the page so that someone knows that this is something that needs to be pushed or pulled. So I found this seashell border and I cut out 3 of the seashells, and I also thought that would be a good height for my card. So to get the distance this way, I just measured my page here and added a 1/2 of an inch, and that's how I cut my card. To get the exact measurement here, I needed to have this clipped over the page. So I needed this to be sturdy. So I mounted these seashells onto 2 pieces of a good thick craft paper. And then I just glued this onto the end of the card. And as I glued, I just made sure that it was fitting straight on the page. And then once I got that in place, I just clamped it down and let it dry for a few hours, because this just really is going to get a lot of wear and tear, and it needs to be really stuck onto the card there. So I have an example here for you. So I've cut this to the measurements that I just told you, and I've cut out a little embellishment here as my pull tab or as my clip. So now that I have this clipped to the page, I can know exactly where to trim my card to fit. So I just clip it in the place that I want it to sit on top, and then I turn it over, measure towards the end of those holes there, and then just cut to fit. So you will see as we go farther along in the video that I did need to trim the end of my card a little bit more to accommodate the holes of my binding. And I do explain farther on how much distance that you're going to need from the edge of the paper to the edge of your card. So I have this card ready to go, and you can see that the pull tab that I've created, or clip if you will, does not go all the way side to side to the edges of my card, whereas this one did. So I don't think that's going to make any difference. It's just going to be different. And this one's also more narrow, so we'll see how that goes. It may or may not work very well. I don't know. And so the next step is to figure out where on the card we need to place our little slide out. If you want to have yours towards the middle, then it's going to be great. If for aesthetic reasons, say you want it towards the top of your card like that, say you have a longer card here and it would look really nice to have it on the top, or let's say on the bottom. There is a measurement that you have to consider, and I've already done the math for you, so you don't need to, but you need to have at least 3/4 of an inch from the edge of your card to the edge of the card of your slide out. So maybe even just a little bit more than 3/4. Once I've decided where to place my card, then I drew a line around it, and I drew mine in pen so that you could see it on video, but of course a pencil would be perfect, as long as you can see it on the back of your card. It is going to be important later on. And then there's a second thing that you have to, or a third thing you have to consider is how much room you have between this back edge of your slide out to the edge of the card. So you have to have at least 5/8 of an inch. So I've already done the math for you. So 5/8 of an inch. You can have more. So I'm going to put 5/8 of an inch plus, because you can have more, but you have to have at least 5/8. So now that we got that technical stuff out of the way, now we're going to move on to some troubleshooting. So this is the second pull-out or slide-out card that I made for this. The first one had stitching on the edges, and I don't know, maybe it was just because I was using this gold thread with the stiff filaments in there, but it was impeding the way that this was sliding in and out. So I made another one without those threads, and I guess you could try it with regular thread, but I would recommend sandwiching that thread in between two pieces of paper, so you would have a double thickness on your slide out card. And the other problem that I had was the stitching on the edge of my page. So it was also catching, and it was also getting in the way of my stopper, which slides along here. I had to cover up my stitches here. So to do that, I needed to cover the entire area with a sheet of copy paper. I couldn't just cover the stitching because, again, that would just cause a problem with this catching on something. So what I did is I cut a piece of paper to fit this entire area that I marked off with the pencil or pen, and I just glued that onto my card there, onto my page, and that solved that problem. So the next step is to make a stopper, and my stopper is double thick. I've used this paper, which is a fairly sturdy, stiff paper, but I still felt like I needed a double thickness. The short ends of your stopper need to be 1/2 of an inch wide. Well, this way you need it 1 inch wider than whatever your slide out card is. So mine here is 2 1/4, so I made my stopper 3 1/4. And so you really want to have that 1/2 inch on each side. I did not do that for mine. I had a very smaller amount, and if my card caught and it pulled out on one side more than the other, then boop, that just pops right out. I think I fixed it on mine, but time will tell. If somebody really yanks on that, I guess they could just pull out my slider and that would be a done deal. It'd be over. The next thing we need to talk about is how much, why we're cutting into this stopper 1/8 of an inch. So my pullout obviously doesn't come out all the way. That's the whole point, is to have that stopping mechanism. So underneath the page here, there's 1/8 of an inch of this card that's not showing. You could do more if you feel better about it, but I'm not seeing why 1/8 of an inch is any problem. So that's what I'm sticking with here. So I took my Tim Holtz ruler because it has the grid on it, and I just drew a line at 1/8 of an inch. And so I got my 1/2 inch measurement on each side just to reference where I want to place this stopper. But then once I got it in place, I wanted this lined up with these lines that I've drawn onto the back of the page or the card. So can you see that? I hope. So now I can go ahead and cut along this line that I drew and this here, and that's going to create the notches in our stopper, and it's also going to create our blockers. So I'm going to go ahead and cut these out, and this is where you want to take your time. It doesn't have to be 100% perfect, but the better it is, the easier it's going to make your life. And uh, you could do a deeper notch if you were, you know, insecure about the 1/8 of an inch. Um, maybe have a larger pull out or slide out that you're making. But just keep in mind this 1/8 of an inch determined this measurement here. So if you're going to make this notch any deeper into your stopper, you're going to have to add that distance to the limit of where you can have the space here. And this is another thing. I want to make sure that this is the correct side. So the one I cut out from this side is where I'm going to put this one. Okay, so you want to make sure that you're gluing it right side up too, because you want this to be a really snug fit. It's like a puzzle that you cut apart the puzzle and now you're just putting those pieces together. So I'm going to go ahead and glue this here. And I'm not going to glue all the way to the edge. Really as close as I can, but not all the way. So I want that to set just outside that line that I drew, and then just to come in just a smidger from that edge. Is that a word? Smidger? I just don't want it showing on the other side. And it can be butted up to the edge of that line. You just don't want to go over the line because you're going to need that little bit of space. This one, I kind of came out too far, I think. And then you want these about as even as possibly get from the edge of the page. And like I said, it's never going to be 100% perfect because nobody can cut that straight, but it's not to the point where I'm like, oh, this is kind of crooked like that. If it's looking anything kind of like that, you might have a problem sliding your card in and out, and just try again. Okay. Okay, so now I have my stopper here, and it's going to slide onto the back of the page here like that, and then it's going to end up here. The one thing that I did find, however, was that sometimes when I'm pulling on that, and this stopper could just go whoop like that. So what I'm going to do is double up the thickness of my blockers. So your card is going to, the side of the card that has the clip on it is going to be facing down, and then you're going to be gluing your card up to that 1/8 inch line that you drew. So, and then you want to make sure that it's as straight as you think it's going to be. If your card is a little bit like this, then again, you're going to have trouble sliding that in and out. So, and I do recommend glue, liquid glue. I just don't know if the glue sticks are going to be strong enough to hold all of this. And then, of course, tape is just going to get in your way. And you want to make sure that you're not gluing, you know, getting your glue down in here. Okay. So I'm looking like I didn't get that quite, looks like it came over on my card just a little bit. So I'm going to just trim that little bit of the notch off there. So yeah, it's good to test it out there, make sure everything's going okay. And yeah, I think that's going to be fine. So now I'm just going to be filling in around the sides of the card. I'm going to come in very close to this stopper, but I don't want it touching. So I'm just going to add the glue. And if it helps you to draw a line there, you could just draw a line. In fact, it might be helpful to at least do that. And it's okay that this doesn't come out as far as that does. It's not a big deal, that part. So that just kind of gives you a guideline where to put the glue. So this next step is super important. Your slide out has to be in place for this next step because that's what's going to create the channel that keeps that in place and keeps it sliding in and out. So what I'm going to do is I want to glue a piece that goes just close to the edge of the slide out. It cannot be overlapping or touching, or that'll just rub. So I want a piece that comes up barely, but it's going to go over the stopper here. And so this here and this here, all of this is a no glue zone. Okay, no glue. You're going to glue this little bit here, and eventually on this side, this little bit here, this hair area here, here, and I'm also going to glue on top of that, and that's going to help keep that from sliding out and just going bloop over the blockers. And I'm just going to slide that down and make sure it doesn't glue to the top there where that glue might come out a little bit. Now I'm going to do the same thing on this side. You want a glue that is going to quick dry and something that doesn't, you know, just get all over the place. I know some glues are messier than others, I think. This art glitter glue dries really quick, and I can even, you know, just go like that for a few minutes and or a few seconds even, and then it'll just start drying. I notice on my card's a little heavier on the other one because it's double the thickness here, and that might help being able to push it in because it gives a little more sturdiness on the card. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and fill that piece in again. To make it level with the others. Okay, so now I'm going to cut a piece. I'm going to measure this here. It's 3.5 by 5. Okay, I just want to see how this is going to fit. It's a little bit bigger. That's okay. I can trim it off. What you want to do though, if it doesn't fit exactly, it's a little bit bigger, is you want to flush it to this side because you're not going to be able to really trim this side with the pull out. So I will flush it to that side, and first I'm going to ink that side so I don't have to worry about it after. And I'm just going to be adding glue here, here, and here. All right, so there it is. I'm finding that having a more narrow little pull tab there is a little more difficult. And I'm thinking that next time I will go ahead and make the card a little with something a heavier paper, or double that up or something, because I think that would help. But you know, it's just working just fine. So my page is complete with this seahorse and the wild and free that I cut from the papers. I've added some eyelash trim to both, and I think that the eyelash trim behind the seahorse kind of looks like a horse's mane, but that's okay. That just adds to the whimsical nature of the page, I think. And so let me know in the comments, what do you think when you see the word flow? Would you come up with water, or would you think of something else? And also, in your mind, what's whimsical? Do you go to mermaids and fairies, or is it something more abstract? And then also, let me know in the comments what you think of the interactive element. All right, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Catch you next time. Bye.